Greetings and salutations, Greek students. We continue our study of Biblical Greek by looking at some example sentences from Lesson 25, where we've been introduced to new forms of third-declension nouns. This is a good time to review things that we've gone over recently that are maybe still a little fuzzy in our heads as we're translating these sentences, not really learning any new grammar, but just looking at new forms. So let's get right into some example sentences from Clayton Croy's Primary Biblical Greek. This is Lesson 25. I'm going to start here with sentence number 3 in the practice and review. We'll do 3 different sentences. As usual, I will look at the sentence, break it into its constituent parts, and guide us through how we might read and interpret it. All right, let's get into it. So this is, as I said, sentence number 3. I'm going to read it in Greek, break it into its parts, and translate it. Ana bain on ton eis ta oras ton he ereon anthropoi poneroi eis elthon eis ton he eron laben ta biblion tu namu. So we have this comma, which is a good way to break this sentence up into separate parts. And anabainon pros, that is anabainon eis ta horas ton hereon. Now, immediately when we see this, we should notice this anabain ontone is a genitive plural, present active participle from anabino. I go up, I ascend, if you're talking about something on a ladder. So anabainon is I go up, I ascend. And because we have this genitive plural participle, whenever we see sentences that begin with these genitives, we might sort of take a second and pause and go, wait a minute. When I see this genitive, could that potentially be a genitive absolute? In this case, of course, the answer is yes. So when we have these genitive absolutes, remember they'll have a genitive, they can have a genitive subject. So in this case, ton hereon, the priest. Hereon, by the way, is one of these new third declension nouns. And even if we're a little fuzzy on these endings, ereon, that omega nu, that's a good guess for the genitive plural. But also, we've known definite articles now for a long time. Tone, that genitive plural definite article. And so, yeah, we can figure this out. So when we have these genitive absolutes, which are genitive phrases that are absolute, they're set apart from the rest of the sentence, it's a good guide, a good reminder that the genitive, in this case, ton hereon, can function like the subject of the participle anabain ontone. So we would translate this, because it's the present participle, as while going up. Sorry, not while going up. It is while going up. But while the subject of this while is while the priests are going up. And actually, we probably, in light of the context, would say were, because we have an aorist as the main verb. So this is something that's happening in the past. While the priests were going up to the mountain, because when is the participle happening? It's happening in relationship to the main verb. It's happening at the same time. And so we could say when the priest went up the mountain, and probably not up to. They're not like, it's not as though they're coming to the mountain and stopping there. The idea of what's happening is that they're going up, they're ascending the mountain. So while the priests were going up the mountain, anthropoi poneroi eis elthein, evil men, or wicked men, evil anthropoi, men, or persons, but we're going to say men, eis elthein. And eis elthein is from eis erkomai. And of course, this elthein, this elthon form, is the second aorist form of erkomai. So eis erkomai becomes eis elthon, and this is third person plural, while the priests were going up the mountain, evil men entered into Ta'heron, into the temple. And not only that, they entered into the temple, labain, to take. So this is a second aorist active infinitive. It's from lambano, I take, I receive. So they went and they entered into the temple to take. Now this is an aorist infinitive, but it's not to took, because the tense of the infinitive is not about when, it's about the kind of verb being described. It's a snapshot action. Entered into the temple to take tabiblion tanamu, to take the book of the law. So if we put this all together, we would translate it as, while the priests go up and or are going up, the thing is, this is a present participle, but the action is in relationship to the main verb. So the image is that it's as the priests are going up the mountain, as that is occurring, that's when evil men entered into the temple to take the book of the law. Now, because the entrance into the temple is aorist, it happened in the past, but the present tense of the participle, the anabinon here, is getting at the action unfolding, and while the ascending is happening, that's when the evil men enter the temple. So it provides the perfect cover for them to go into the temple and to take the book of the law. So this is an example of the genitive absolute participle. We have this third declension noun in he'ereon. We have nominative plural, anthropoi poneroi. Ace elthon, a good example of a second aorist. Labain, the present active infinitive, actually a second aorist active infinitive. So we're seeing lots of the forms, and this is, as we get later and later in these chapters, it's having all of these different parts come together to be able to translate these sentences. Let's look at some more examples. This is going to be lesson 25, example sentence number 9. Echomen piston eis theon hina hotan hawias tu anthropu hupastrepse thomen pistoi en hemera kriseos. So we have here a hina clause, so it's going to give us the purpose probably of this. Echomen piston eis theon. Now, this long omega here on echomen tells us that there's some funny business. This isn't just we have, the present active indicative of ekomen. It's ekomen, which tells me I'm looking at the first person plural, present active subjunctive. I'm looking at a subjunctive. So when I see these first person plural subjunctives in these independent clauses, my mind just goes, oh, I know what this is. This is the hortatory subjunctive. Let us have faith, right? Direct object of the verb. Let us have faith, eis theon, in God, in order that, why? Or for what purpose? What's the reason that we should have faith in God? In order that when Hotan, hawias tu anthropu, the Son of Man, hupastrepse. Now, this is from the verb. Hupastrepse is from hupastrepho. I return. When the Son of Man returns, or might return, because I'm here in the aorist subjunctive, and of course it's aorist because this is a snapshot. This is a one-time action. The Son of Man is not going to be returning constantly. He's going to return kind of a one-time deal, and whenever when the Son of Man returns, eure thomen, this is the aorist passive subjunctive, and it's from eurisco. I find. And what's happened here is that thomen ending, the theta here, is telling me I'm in the aorist passive. So it's first person plural aorist passive, meaning that the subject is the recipient of the action in the passive voice, in order that when the Son of Man might return, we might, and we don't need all these mights, I'm being overly literal here, or overly wooden. It's not really literal. It's wooden. It's kind of clunky English, but I'm trying to bring out the nuances of the subjunctive as something contingent that hasn't happened yet. We might be found pistoi, faithful, en hemera kriseos, in the day of judgment. And here we can see that kriseos is in the genitive singular. It's one of those new third declension nouns, like polis. So pistoi en hemera kriseos, the day of judgment. Pistoi is in the nominative because this is functioning like a predicate nominative, that we might be found. We're not finding something, it's that we are found to be something, that is to be pistoi, faithful. So altogether, let us have faith in God in order that when the Son of Man returns, we might be found faithful in the day of judgment. So this is a good example where we've got these third declension nouns, pistis, krisen, pistis multiple times. And then we've got these subjunctives, echomen in the hortatory subjunctive, hupastrepse in the, and eurethomen in these temporal subjunctive, as well as the purpose clause of the subjunctive. So good examples of different kinds of verbs and nouns coming together in this example. Let's do one more example here in lesson 25, looking at sentence number 12. This one might kind of throw you for a loop, so I thought it would be a good one for us to look at together. Genas un huparkantes tu theu uk ophelomen daken ton theon enai lithon. Genas un huparkantes tu theu. So huparkantes is the present active participle. Masculine. Not masculine. In this case, it's actually neuter. This is, in fact, masculine. Huparkantes. It is present active participle masculine, plural nominative. Therefore, while being a race of God, so therefore, and I'm saying while being because it's that present active participle, a race. And by the way, this verb huparkantes is from huparko, which is often used in the sense of to begin or to be. It's not unlike a me, but it's sort of while being a genos, a race of God. Ophelomen, we ought not to think God is a stone. To think. So this is from dakeo. And ophelomen, that verb, it's one of those words that likes to have a helper to to be obligated. We should not. We ought not. And the ook is the negation here of the verb. We ought not to think God is a stone. Now, this is where you have dakeo. This is a good example of what's called indirect speech, where dakeo is a verb of thinking or a verb of speaking. But what we're getting in ton, theon, ani, lethon, all in the infinitive, the ton, theon, ani, lethon, ani being in the infinitive, why not ha, theos, estin, lethos, is because we're not getting the reported thought. What we're getting is an indirect report. It's sort of the difference between saying, we should not say God is a stone. In that case, we'd be reporting the speech that God is a stone. But in this instance, it's reporting the content of what we shouldn't think without actually reporting the specific words of what we think. This is indirect discourse. It's indirectly reporting. It's the difference between if I come home and my wife tells me, take out the trash, and I'm recounting to you, this is what my wife told me. My wife told me, take out the trash. I'm reporting her exact words to me. But I could also tell the story as indirect speech. So the day I come home, my wife tells me I should take out the trash. Now, I'm not quoting my wife in indirect speech. I'm summarizing the content of what she said indirectly. And when you do that in Greek, you switch from the present tense to, or the indicative to the infinitive. And of course, when you do that, the subject of the infinitive is the accusative. So to put this back together, therefore, while being a race of God, we ought not to think, and I'll write this over here for the sake of clarity, we ought not to think from dakeo. And again, what is the speech or the thought that we should not think? The content, the indirect report. We ought not to think God is a stone. Literally, we ought not to think God to be a stone. What does that mean? It's reporting indirectly what it is that we should not think. That is, that God is a stone. So this is a good example of indirect speech. Of course, we have this third declension noun in genos, and that's a good example of, again, the different kinds of things we've been learning, talking about the subjunctive, talking about participles, talking about these infinitives coming together in the third declension to kind of review and practice the forms that we've been seeing along the way.